To say the slow news cycle was blown up on Saturday would be an understatement, after it was announced that the DOJ search of Joe Biden's home had found 6 more classified documents. That, of course, comes after the lying buffoons at the White House had assured us that the search had been completed. Biden's lawyers immediately tried to get out in front of the revelation, releasing a statement claiming cooperation with the DOJ. But while the administration continues to talk about transparency, one bombshell detail from the search has left the president's lies fully exposed. Namely, the fact that some of those documents that were found, they came from way back. I mean, he dragged those things home during his time in the Senate. Because of course he did. Tyler Page tweeted out, "New. The DOJ searched Biden's Wilmington home yesterday and found 6 items consisting of documents with classified markings. Material is from Biden's Senate years and from VP tenure, according to statement from Bob Bauer." To say that's a massive development is an understatement. Well, at least if this was literally any other president in history. From the beginning of this entire scandal, Biden and his surrogates, including, let's call her Project Utopia, the very combative Karine Jean-Pierre, has continued asserting that this was all one big accident. As they tell it, some classified briefings and such simply got swept into boxes while Biden's vice presidential office was being packed up. Rather interesting though, because those documents were then somehow unknowingly split up and transported to multiple locations, being moved multiple times in the process. Now, as little sense as that made before this last little detail was added to the story, it's now been shown to be, well, an obvious lie. You see, having Senate-era documents means that Biden had to have actively taken them, known about them, and kept them. There is no other way they could have ended up at his home in Wilmington, Delaware. A senator would never normally have classified documents just laying around their office. Protocols are very strict on Capitol Hill, and everything is supposed to be confined to a SCIF, a technically secure viewing facility. While one might dubiously argue that it's not unusual for a vice president to retain classified information in their office, there is no argument that that's the case with a senator. Now, this leads to a ton of very serious questions, not the least of which is how Biden ended up with these documents in the first damn place. Did he stuff them down his pants? Did he simply take the documents in full view with none of the authorities in charge of securing them bothering to say anything? And why was he taking them? Why did he keep them at his home in Delaware for what appears to have been possibly decades? Unless they were taken at the tail end of his U.S. Senate career. What did the documents contain? And did they provide any personal value to Biden? One thing's for sure, this latest discovery by the DOJ has blown this scandal wide open. No longer can the White House dismiss concerns by saying this was all a big accident. Because, folks, clearly there was intent to retain these documents at this point. Though, you know what? Having intent isn't even required for this to be a crime. And further, like with pretty much everything else, Biden has been lying his ass off when he says that he didn't know about the documents, nor what they contained. Monday is going to be a very, very hectic news day for this clown show administration. If Project Utopia girl, or Karine Jean-Pierre, doesn't hold a briefing, then you'll know things are really, really bad. Stay tuned, because I will be updating.
Folks, you want the real story? Just follow the money. If you follow the money, we can connect everything from the classified documents to why the Trump impeachment hoax happened, even the Russiagate story. Let's start with what we know. And the leftist freak out to this segment is going to be something to watch because it's based on facts. During Obama's administration, Ukraine, it was a piggy bank, folks, for lobbyists and elites eager to peddle influence in Washington. It was a piggy bank for funneling dirty money from Ukraine back into Washington. Everybody knows it. And it's fairly obvious at this point that Joe Biden, the point man on Ukraine, he wanted a piece of that. So when Putin threatened Ukraine in 2014 and 2015, Biden, of course, was the point man there. And according to the Washington Post, this is interesting, Joe Biden wanted to send weapons to Ukraine, but was overruled by Obama? Meanwhile, Hunter Biden, his son, with zero experience on the matter whatsoever, was on the board of a Ukrainian energy company called Burisma. Big coincidence, right? Well, hold on. Let's just keep following the money here. Remember, it's not about the media telling you a story. That's what they want to do. It's about the story. Follow the money. When Burisma, Hunter Biden's company, was being investigated by a Ukrainian prosecutor, Papa Joe openly talked about withholding financial aid if the Ukrainian prosecutor wasn't fired. You may have seen this clip before, but pay very close attention to the end of it.
I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a got fired. So they made some genuine, substantial changes institutionally and with people. But in one of the three institutions, there's now some backsliding. So when we left, the first thing I spent a lot of time, as did Mike, because this was his territory.
Oh, it was Mike's territory? While he's on stage, Joe Biden bragging about getting a prosecutor fired for investigating his son's company. Who is Mike? Well, he's talking about the guy sitting next to him on stage, Michael Carpenter, who used to work for the Department of Defense on Russia and Ukraine. That's the same Michael Carpenter who was the managing director of the Penn Biden Center think tank. This is bananas. The same one where the classified documents on Ukraine were found. Isn't that just so weird? How does that always happen? Let that sink in for a minute. The same guy who worked for Obama's DOJ on Ukraine ran Biden's think tank. Again, a big coinky-dink, I'm sure. But stay with me here. We're still following the money. Here's another coincidence. Don't you think, again, it's weird that the DOJ in their recent statements said that they were at the Biden residence for the classified document search? But why weren't they at the Penn Biden Center? Someone hiding something? Speaking of Ukraine investigations, one of the biggest pro-Ukraine lobbyists in 2016 was a woman by the name of Daria Kalaniuk. She conveniently was the director of a George Soros-funded anti-corruption group, Ant-AC. Well, why does this matter? Well, Daria Kalaniuk and her group, according to reports, coordinated with the U.S. Embassy to pressure Ukrainian prosecutors to stop investigating the Soros group in 2016 in Ukraine, where Hunter Biden worked and Joe Biden was the point man. They allegedly had a do not prosecute list, but here's where it gets really weird. There was a do prosecute list they wanted as well. Remember Russiagate, the hoax that began when the same group targeted Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort for his what? Financial dealings in Ukraine. So Manafort knew about Ukraine, meaning Trump probably did too. Then another Soros-affiliated group hired Fusion GPS, the creator of the Russian dossier. You believe that? Again, super coincidental, man. Remember, it's not about a story. It's about the story. And here's another outstanding coincidence, all centered on Hunter Biden and Joe Biden's grift in Ukraine. Read this 2017 headline from Politico, left-wing outlet Politico, about Ukrainians targeting Trump to keep him from getting elected. They did.
Most of this came by way of redstate.com. If you liked it, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Leave a comment down below. There's a PayPal link in the description box, so please put $1 in the bucket on the way out the door. I'd like to thank everyone for all your donations. They're much needed and much appreciated. Now, with all that being said, we'll see you next time.
Come on, move. Move. Easy, easy.